news, which is the report. I hope that doesn't sound like we don't think this report is incredible, but more that we're welcoming Ambassador Yamada and Governor Mark Gordon from Wyoming to highlight that the western states and Wyoming and New Mexico in particular are diligently working on exploring any number of partnerships, particularly looking at greener energy opportunities between Asia and the United States, focusing on the Rocky Basin or the western states region where we have large natural gas reserves, and we have the cleanest liters of natural gas, we believe, on the planet, given the climate goals by the western states, particularly those in Wyoming and in New Mexico. And specifically, an organization that has been working on many of these issues, the Western States and Tribal Nations Energy Initiative, commissioned a study that was paid for by both New Mexico state funds, so thank you to Vice Chairwoman Meredith Dixon and others in the legislature that make sure that these consultant and investments can take place, and also thank you to the state of Wyoming and others. And it does these things. One, it identifies that we have nearly unlimited gas reserves, so 277 trillion cubic feet. And that's a very powerful representation about what we can provide with growing energy demands in this country and frankly beyond. Two, not a highlight or a focus of the report, but certainly in the report, if we can export more of the gas in the Rocky Mountain region to countries like Japan and other countries in Asia, we can reduce their carbon footprint today by 40%, which is all of our goals, irrespective of what the legal or statutory designs are about meeting our climate crisis where it is. In New Mexico, that's the Energy Transition Act, and in Wyoming, that's done by largely executive order. So that's going to vary state by state. But it's really important that we demonstrate that we can do more to affect the international climate crisis by providing more of our cleaner energy out of the western states. Two, it highlights the different pathways to get LNG in particular out of the United States and out of the western states. So there's still plenty of opportunity in the Pacific region. That's called the Pacific Pathway. We also have a Gulf Pathway with existing infrastructure. We discussed today a little bit about investments that we hope will be made to give that a little bit of a facelift, which encourage more of this participation. And lastly, that we already have many of those relationships with our independent Japanese businesses. You did that to me earlier. And other partnerships around the country, and we have the opportunity to expand those. The report was then provided to a larger group today that was representative of folks who represent utility markets, infrastructure investors, different clean energy operators, companies, investors, and sort of an all-of-the-above approach. And then lastly, this is the fruits, I hope, Ambassador, of our trip and Governor Gordon's repeated productive efforts to introduce the opportunities in the western states to Japan and other countries. His invitation to New Mexico was incredible, and the ambassador's attention to helping us navigate opportunity between our two countries and by highlighting and learning more about what the western states have to offer. And I'm delighted to have everybody here today, including such a large representation from Japanese companies. I'm going to hand it over to, although if you want more countries, see if we can work on that a little bit here. I'm about getting it all done. So, Governor Gordon.
Thank you, Governor Lujan Grisham. It is a delight to be here, and it's wonderful to be with Ambassador Yamada as well, Consul General Okajima. It's also great to have you here, and I remember very well your visit to Wyoming and the opportunity we took to talk about the potential of coal and the companies that have invested heavily in carbon capture. And I believe Kawasaki Heavy Industries has taken that technology back to Japan and put it on a power plant there. So I think, Governor Lujan Grisham, the points that you were making about the opportunities that lie in the Western states really came to a head, I think, with our visit to Japan, where we understood that Japanese and Asian countries are still very interested in net zero futures. They understand that it's an all of the above equation. They need all forms of energy, and one of the ones that we can provide in a very near term, almost immediately, is resources, natural gas. Both of our states have really led the country in having certified gas that can meet the UN standards. Japan was particularly interested in that. The opportunity to look at the potential for cooperation and investment. These are the things that the Trump administration has touted and talked about. They're the things that we're ready to do. And I hate to say bipartisan. This is just good business. That's what's so good about the people around this table today, is we're talking about how do we move into a future that's bright, has done its best to meet climate concerns, has done its best to make sure that energy is there. And we know that energy is going to become more and more precious because the demand has grown so enormously. So it's wonderful to have the partners around the table today to talk about those possibilities and really think about what those investments can mean. And Ambassador, you being here has made such a difference in that conversation.
Ambassador?
Thank you very much, Governors. And it is my great honor to be here and to participate in this very substantive and very successful roundtable. And this roundtable highlighted the strength of states of New Mexico and Wyoming, and also speaks directly to the needs of Japan, which is natural resources, or I should say energy resources. And Japan has been a major purchaser of American LNG. And in recent negotiations we had with the current administration, we stated that Japan is willing to continue to increase our purchase of U.S. natural energy resources to the extent of $7 billion annually. So there is a great potential for further energy cooperation between New Mexico, Wyoming, and Japan. And today's roundtable informed us very in detail what Rocky Mountain gas potential is. And I'm sure Japanese side will seriously consider this option presented by the two states. But in addition to natural gas, we are cooperating on various other renewable sources or the carbon capture, as Governor you mentioned. So there are various ways to cooperate between our three parties. And this roundtable is a direct follow-up to two governors' joint visit to Japan, April. And that visit was very useful in strengthening the economic partnership between the two states and Japan. And we very much appreciate the two governors taking the time to visit Japan to open these opportunities before us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Such an honor. Jason? Mr. Sandell?
My name is Jason Sandell, and I'm the chairman of an organization named Western States and Tribal Nations Energy Initiative. Today we are releasing a report that highlights Rocky Mountain natural gas, a roadmap, and implementation for exports. The roadmap is a direct result in the spirit of collaboration between member states and tribal nations, including the state of New Mexico, the state of Wyoming, the state of Utah, the Southern Ute Indian Tribe, the Jicarilla Apache Nation, and western Colorado counties of Garfield, Mesa, Moffett, and Rio Blanco. The report substantiates the efforts on behalf of both of these fine governors who have been engaged in trade missions, highlighting the benefits of Rocky Mountain natural gas for Asian nations and for export via LNG. The key findings are that Rocky Mountain natural gas energy is uniquely situated to fuel artificial intelligence development and reshoring, but also key in significant global energy supply. There are ample supplies of natural gas in the U.S., which continue to provide some of the most abundant, most affordable, cleanest, diversified, cost-effective energy options for consumers, and is a cornerstone for global energy needs. As the governor has pointed out, Western states natural gas has the ability to reduce Asian life cycle greenhouse gas emissions by an average of 40%. And there is a demand for LNG expected to double by 2050, with the vast majority expected in Asian Pacific markets. I would point out that the strategic vision for developing the future for Rocky Mountain natural gas connects the strategic vision for developing a future for Rocky Mountain gas basins connects to growing demand, and doing as much provides economic opportunity for primarily underserved and coal-affected communities across the Rockies who have experienced significant economic turmoil dating back to the global economic crisis in 2008. We are proud to be able to release this report, and we believe that the findings, again, are substantial and important in the work that Governors Lujan Grisham and Gordon have been engaged in.
Thank you, Mr. Sandell. Michael and/or Secretary Black, are we ready for questions?
Secretary Black, did you want to say a few words? Or?
No, but we're good to go. Good to go for questions.
All right.
Let's get it started. Dennis, go.
Now that we have this report, what's next? What happens next?
So the next steps are outlined specifically in the report, and it's really about bringing partners and investment together to look at pathways to deliver natural gas off the west coast of North America, specifically through the Pacific Northwest, in addressing Pacific Northwest energy needs, but then also exports through potentially Mexico.
Yeah, and this roundtable was specific to that. So I mentioned it earlier, but we had, I was lucky enough to have breakfast with the ambassador and make sure that he had plenty of Christmas chili first thing this morning. And I'm happy to report that he opted to eat the enchilada breakfast instead of the sweets and sweet rolls. So he's an honorary New Mexican now as a result. But we talked about you have to stipulate or at least agree that there's a set of facts that make sense, so that when we are engaging partners and business potential, that we know exactly what it is that we're talking about, and we set those expectations. So we've done that today. We've had another incredible meeting where we're talking about our energy commitments in the country, our energy opportunities outside of the country, and we're continuing to create more than dialogue, real opportunities for business partnering and partnerships. And that was really the focus of this roundtable, but it's going to be the focus of the entire day. And again, I'm going to point to the Western states. We have this energy, long been leaders in providing cleaner energy to the United States, but we're also really effective at working together. The governors that represent the Western States Association in particular, this is what we do. We look at economic opportunities and we problem solve. And the ambassador's interest is incredibly meaningful because it gives us a bit more strategy in this moment for next steps. And I think I can speak for both of us. This is a huge opportunity for the Western states and the United States in general.
Madam Governor, if I may, I think, the other thing in terms of next steps, the people around this table already maybe have business partnerships. They certainly understand the value of those partnerships and the growth potential in the Pacific. I think what is really important is that you have here a demonstration of governors that want to work together to make sure that our region proceeds. Because if you're going to do anything now on a major construction project or infrastructure project, it's going to span multiple administrations. And so having the kind of confidence that you have a partner in the middle of the country who is interested in making sure that we advance business interests and make sure that our people are better off for those, that's what this meeting is about. I think we can foster those kinds of relationships, and and business partners can have confidence that the political winds won't shift.
Right. And that we'll meet our clean energy goals at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Dan Boyd with the Albuquerque Journal. Kind of following up on that question, but when it comes to exporting natural gas, things like that, you talked about the infrastructure. Will that require more pipelines, things like that into Mexico? It's my understanding in the past that sometimes we've had a glut of natural gas and not a good way of necessarily exporting that.
So I'll start, and it's both. We have the ability to move it currently in our existing infrastructure, but as demand grows, we would need to do more infrastructure investment. So we've got utility partners and infrastructure partners here at the table with us today who talked specifically about phase 1 and phase 2 operations that are phase 1 ready to develop. I mean, we're ready to deliver, and phase 2 well underway. So I don't know that we have the same stumbling blocks, which is something the Western governors have been working on. So we have both pathways through the Gulf, pathways to the Pacific, and in doing so, we cut costs of export and delivery, and we minimize some national security issues by not having to go through the Panama Canal.
And,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, and Governor, I think the other thing that we've touched on a bit here is how important it is that infrastructure have some flexibility in it. So to your point about gluts and dearths and all that. Also, we've talked a bit today about what the potential for ammonia can be coming out of this area, and we know that we can repurpose some of the pipeline infrastructure for other things that can be moved in that pipeline infrastructure. Of course, that takes time, but it is valuable to have that in place. And when you do get business in Western states, you're going to do business with people who love the outdoors, care about the environment, probably work here for some of these companies, love to hunt, love to fish, love to hike. So you really have people who care about the resource and want to develop it in a sensitive way.
Hi, Patrick with Swirsky, Mexico. Any sense of timeline and how far away are we from infrastructure being built or contracts being signed for selling this gas?
Well, I'd love to say that that's all done and that what you're witnessing is those specific, explicit agreements. This is really the more specific introduction of the opportunity to do that. So we provided introductions when we were in Japan. We have been given an opportunity on a couple different visits to the ambassadors' residence for the national governors and other governors' groups. And this was specific to infrastructure, specific to business opportunities, an introduction for Japanese business interests already in the country, and a demonstration by the companies doing a variety of all of the above cleaner energy approaches already existing in our two states and the Western region, because it's going to take this collective group to design what those agreements might look like. And I'm excited, because if you don't get here, there's no real global market, right? It takes more than a one contract It takes more than one business agreement. It takes a collective, and what you see before you today with this report is a collective of interest. And I'm feeling a bit bullish that that collective interest always spurs economic growth. We'll have to wait and see exactly what that is. But I think the demonstration today with both the report and the infrastructure folks, we can deliver now, meeting growing demand both in our own country and abroad. That takes more infrastructure, and that's true in every state for every kind of energy, and including moving greener electrons. That's a reality of every country on the globe, and we believe that the western states are well positioned, and states like Wyoming and New Mexico, which are energy powerhouses, that when we get it done here, we set, pardon the pun, this report, this roadmap starts and ends in the western states and with these business partners.
Jessica.
A little bit just to expand on some of the things you've already said. Can you give some specific examples as to how this partnership would specifically benefit New Mexico, especially for maybe residents who believe we should keep all of our resources here?
Well, for one, we have a lot of energy resources, right? We are a dominant presence in things like geothermal. You explore that, it keeps energy prices low here, and it brings jobs. A better economy means better opportunities for every New Mexican. We've been a bit limited in the past. So I'll focus on the Permian, which is southeastern part of the state, where our largest oil and gas productions have largely been, and frankly still are. And when gas prices and oil prices are high, that's booming. And when they're not, that creates that volatile commodity, can create real challenges for fossil fuel or any kind of energy state. The difference today is we are all of us, maybe a bit different, maybe more advanced, maybe a little bit behind. New Mexico and Wyoming are at the forefront. We all are working with our collective companies, even if the states didn't want to, companies want to. You have to meet a different carbon reduction, carbon net zero, carbon free design. That's a fact. All right, so we're doing that. That changes the opportunities and stability, particularly for natural gas, but not just natural gas. You have commitments from large, right, oil companies to also meet those, and they're meeting those methane rules in New Mexico. And we just demonstrated with the Environmental Defense Fund that we've lowered our methane emissions by half, while increasing production significantly at the same time. So that stability is completely different. And lastly, these energy demands around the globe are increasing, and that is a different and immediate dynamic that was never present before, but is present today. And actually, I'm going to add a fourth. Not every country on the planet is worried about the climate crisis or committed to the climate goals. That means that when the United States and Asian countries, particularly Japan, lean in and lead, this creates business opportunities that will last decades. Longer than that, it should create the transition for the next 50 years that if we don't meet, then we have to have a whole other set of pretty tough conversations. We are doing that today. This collective is a representation of those commitments to New Mexicans, to the people living in Wyoming, the people living in Japan, to the people all across the globe. These are jobs and real opportunities while we're solving, as you said, Governor, we're solving real challenges.
And for the ambassador, why is this so important for Japan?
As I said at the beginning, Japan needs natural energy resources. And with this conversation with two energy resources abundant states is a very meaningful occasion for us. As the governor said, this is a very good detailed introduction of the potential of Rocky Mountain natural gas, and we will seriously look into it. And in the opening statement, I might have misspoke, but Japan committed in the recent tariff consultations that we will Japan committed to stable and long-term incremental purchases of U.S. energy, including LNG, totaling $7 billion per year. So this is one of the options we will have on the table.
If I may just put a bit of a fine point on it, and the relationship here is obviously very strong. But I can remember when we first, Governor Lujan Grisham and I first approached the Biden White House, Governor Lujan Grisham made a point which is true for both New Mexico and Wyoming, which is our ability to sell our energy is a way that we help finance our schools to make sure our kids get the education they need. We both have very strong education systems, thanks to our ability to do that. So that's one. And then the second thing, we've talked about the atmosphere and the climate and all of those issues. And that's true. There are places that don't care as much, and they're plenty happy to, not have strong labor standards. They're plenty happy not to worry about what the environmental consequences are. But in here, you have two states that are committed and leaders in environmental protection, energy resource development, and that's better for all of us in the end. And I would rather that we have the leadership role with the technologies of the future than sort of surrender that to someone else.
Got time for one or two more. Okay, good to go. Thank you.
One more, Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jerry. I'm just
On the second, Jerry Redfern, Capital and This is for you, Governor. Just making sure, is this particular report just talking about natural gas coming out for New Mexico, coming out of the Four Corners San Juan Basin, or is this incorporating the thought of bringing in gas from the Permian Basin at some point in the future?
Gas definitely is leaving the Permian Basin in a more productive way, not just released into the atmosphere. So we are happy about that. That's jobs. But this report really talks about the Rockies region, and so the San Juan Basin in particular. But we want to lay the foundation that cleaner gas is better in a transition, and exporting that and being part of that partnership. And I really appreciated what Governor Gordon said. I mean, I get a lot of questions, Ambassador, about how we fund universal child care, and that's not, I want to be careful here. We wouldn't do any economic effort solely to invest in a policy initiative of the state if it wasn't good for everyone and was meeting our highest standards, including our climate standards. But it is an important and valuable point. It's this economic opportunity that does create equity and real wealth in New Mexico families and in families in Wyoming. And the western states have the opportunity to do that, but we have an obligation to do that too. And so I'm proud of those aspects. And again, mostly the San Juan in the report, but we are happy to export gas from anywhere. Sorry, Jason.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.